Good morning, everyone. Before I give my remarks, I have the honor to bring on Mr. Easy Okodu. Mr. Easy, are you around? Step out briefly. Mr. Easy is the board member of the Nigerian Center, and I wanted me to have the honor of also welcoming you as well. So I will go straight into my remarks, and hopefully when he comes, we'll be able to give additional welcome remarks as well. I am Benga Gunji, the Executive Director of the Nigerian Center. The Nigerian Center is a national civic institution advancing social justice, culture, and opportunity. And we have the greatest honor to be a steward of the Nigerian and the Nigerian American brand story, which is an incredible, extraordinary contribution that has come out of the continent of Africa to this United States. I want to thank every one of us for coming out this morning to this congressional briefing on Nigeria. Just looking at the diversity in the room speaks that Nigeria is an important topic to every single one of us. Some of us Nigerians, Nigerian Americans, and non-Nigerians or Nigerian families or friends. So it's an important topic. So we are thankful for that. And I think about this remarks, and I really want to anchor it on this premise that when history repeatedly have shown us, as proof to us, that when Nigeria and the United States collaborate, what happens is we have a deeply connected world, we have a deeply empowered world, and we also have a more prosperous world. When Nigeria and the United States collaborate, it advances prosperity not just for both countries. It becomes a global blueprint. It becomes a force for good, an enduring, potent force that the whole world can actually glean and learn from. And we see that happen over and over again. The Nigeria and United States friendship and partnership spans several decades, and we see that expression in governance, in trade, in cultural exchanges, in all spheres of life. And there are times that specific relationships have been tried. Most recently, the country was redesignated as a country of particular concern. That is Nigeria to the United States. But what was even more powerful with that designation is we saw a renewed sense of commitment and partnership. Out of that designation became a working group, a joint security working group with Nigeria and America responding to the issues of security on the continent. We know that Nigeria is also important to this United States, that every time that relationship, that partnership is tested, it evolves into something even more powerful that we didn't even know prior such a challenge. And we look at the opportunities with both countries. Between Nigeria and the United States, we are looking at a population of 500 million people. It's a subcontinental potential of trade, of commerce, of prosperity, again, not just to both countries, but to the rest of the world. And also, we look at as the global powers of the world compete for influence and dominance on the continent of Africa, Nigeria also becomes critical for the United States. It becomes critical in terms of security as challenges in the Sahel region spills into Nigeria, as we see the fourth global industrial revolution, critical minerals that come from the emerging market, as African countries, the continent reposition itself beyond just an emerging market to be a critical actor in the global business arena. The relationship between Nigeria and the United States, more than ever, it's more important. So if you're asking me, like as an American, to you this seems like a foreign policy. And I really want you to reconsider a different perspective. Yes, when you talk about Africa, Nigeria on the Hill, it's a foreign policy consideration, but it does have deep local implications. Now, Nigerian American are a vital, important part of the American fabric. Nigerian Americans are America's doctors, politicians, lawyers, business owners, civic leaders, in every facet of human existence. That is Nigerian American. And that is why Congress should have a different perspective when it comes to Nigerian Americans or Nigeria-US relationship. And I really think about a story to really further anchor my remarks. The idea, and I ask myself, Nigeria is relatively a young nation. It's still going through its nation-building experiences, But I think about when exactly, if we can pinpoint a timeline in history that Nigeria and United States started this partnership and relationship post the independence of Nigeria. The date that comes to mind is 1925. In 1925, what was then a colonial Nigerian eastern part of Nigeria, annexed with Cameroon, a young man came from that region to this United States of America. He started his journey in West Virginia. He came to Howard University and ultimately made it to Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. That young man in 1925 went through the American age, the golden age, up to the Civil Rights Revolution explosion. He was inspired by the ideals of American democracy as the country even asserted itself, approaching the World War II as the global force for freedom around the world. That ideal was anchored also with the civil rights movement of the Northeast region and across this America. It went back to that region, and it helped to liberate and create the most potent, powerful Black nation in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the very first president of Nigeria. Can you see what the Nigerian American partnership is? This singular man, this singular experience led to the creation, the freedom of Nigeria as a nation, but the largest, most populous Black nation in the world. That relationship helped to establish a sense of identity for every Black person, not just on the continent of Africa, but even for Black people in America as they look to the world and they look about models for self-determination, actualization, and identity. They look to Nigeria, they look to Ghana, and those influences came right here because of a partnership that would happen. Again, we have seen over and over again that when Nigeria and the United States anchored their partnership in friendship, in collaboration, not just both countries, but the rest of the world benefit. And if you think about all of this, the fact that we are in the capital today, Nigeria used to have a congressional caucus, as was mentioned earlier. We don't have one anymore. I think more than ever before, we need one right now. And we want that caucus to be bipartisan because Nigeria is just too big of a country, a subject matter not to have a dedicated Nigerian caucus, bipartisan caucus on the Hill. And that is why the relationship of Nigeria and America truly, truly matters a lot. So when we think about this partnership, what we did was look into our community. If you would ask me, what is the state of the U.S.-Nigerian partnership, I would say it is ambiguous. Because one day they are best of friends. Our First Lady is the most respected woman in the world. It's a great country of doctors and lawyers. And the other day, the words that shall not be said in this hallowed ground has been described of Nigeria's relationship with the United States. So we really wonder, is it a friendship? Is it an adversarial relationship? Is it a problematic relationship? The fact is we do not know. And I'm saying, if there's any country in the world that has given us immigrants, allies, the opportunity to be a part of the legislative process, is this United States of America. If there's one country that has given us the opportunity to remove ourselves from the spectator seat and convene our own congressional briefing to really help advise and inspire Congress as they evolve this new dimension of this relationship, it is this United States of America. So we reach out to our coalition partners. We reach out to NAPAC, the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee. We reach out to NPAC, which is a partner organization to AMPA, the Nigerian American Physician Group, the advocacy arm. We reached out to the U.S.-Nigeria Trade Council, which is a forefront lead organization in U.S.-Nigerian trade. We reached out to U.S.-Nigeria Law Group, which is an important actor when it comes to policies affecting both countries. Like, why don't you hear from our own subject matter experts? We are thankful that there is now a joint working group, but imagine if these individuals that are about to come to the stage are actually the one in that working group. We also reach out to our elected officials across the country, and very soon at some point you will be hearing from Ms. Carol Kazim, Nigerian American rep in the state of Pennsylvania. There are elected Nigerian Americans all across the United States of America. What about if this caliber, cadre of leadership are in that bipartisan, in that joint working group? We have a more expansive perspective. Again, the time of sitting to spectate, we are done with that. Now we are in the driver's seat. We want to architect what this new relationship is going to look like. And very soon you'll be hearing from our wonderful panelists to help inspire what that dimensions could look like. Thank you so much for listening to me. There are a lot of lights here, so I can't see all the faces. Do we have Ms. Carol Kazim in the room yet? Not yet. Do we have Mr. Easy in the room yet? Okay. Can you please welcome the board member of the Nigerian Center to give some remarks?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today. This year marks 30 years that I've been in the United States. I arrived here in 1996 from Nigeria. My story is a little bit unique because I was originally born here. I was born in New York, so it was relatively easier for me to assimilate because I was able to come to the United States. I had a social security number already, and I was able to work and go to school. But even with that, it was extremely difficult for me. Even though I was a citizen, I arrived here in 1996. I didn't know how to get a job. My dad just put me on the plane and said, all right, go to America, you're going to meet your older brother. My older brother had only been here for like about a year and a half, and you're going to figure this whole America thing out. I'm in Washington, D.C. I didn't know about SATs. I knew I needed to take SATs, but I wasn't really sure. I got a job washing dishes. Just trying to figure this thing out was so difficult. My older brother was here, but it was like the blind leading the blind because he just arrived a year and a half ago, and we're just trying to figure this whole thing out. But now, fast forward to 2026, we have the Nigerian Center. The minute I heard about it from Benga, I immediately wanted to be involved because I understand the struggle. Even with being a citizen, even having access to financial aid, even having access to all these things America had, I didn't know the know-how. There was nobody to guide me. And the Nigerian Center is here to guide us. They have videos, they have loans they give, they have all these things they give. And I'm really, really proud to be here today. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming today, and I'm not going to take too much time, but I appreciate you. I'm over here. If you have any questions to ask me, I'm available. Thank you so much.
Can we appreciate him a little bit more, please? Can we? Thank you, sir. I'm going to do 1 minute, one more check-in. Do we have Rep. Karakazim in the room? To my right, to my left. I'm happy to turn it over back to you, Ms. Nkechi Lechi.
Thank you so much for your keynote address, Benga, and Mr. Eze. Thank you so much for just confirming why the Nigerian Center is important, and even more, connecting us back to why this Congressional Nigerian Caucus is vital. And so right now we're going to enter the panel discussion on the agenda, and I'm going to one by one invite all our panelists to come and have a seat in front of a microphone, and we're just going to basically be discussing through each sector why, I'm going to ask a series of questions, and they'll be able to answer the questions as to why this caucus would be helpful. And so I'm going to invite Mr. Prince Maduka. He is the president of the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee, NAPAC. Is it their turn? I'm going to invite Mr. Emmanuel Ogebe. He is an international human rights lawyer. Thank you, sir. From U.S. Nigeria Law Group. I'm going to have Dr. Noel Ilogu, Nigerian Physician Advocacy Group President. And I'm going to have Jonathan Dornhofer from U.S. Nigeria Council for Food Security, Trade, and Investments. You are all welcome. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for taking time out of your busy schedules to join this work and really push forward why this caucus is needed. I hope that everyone that's in the audience, that as you're listening and staying engaged and listening to their responses, at the end of the panel discussion, we are going to open up the floor for any questions and answers that you may have. And so I'm going to start and ask each representative here to please introduce yourselves and your organizations and the work that you do, starting with Mr. Prince. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Ms. Nkechi. Good morning, everyone. Let me first of all appreciate the Nigerian Center for the work that they have been doing in our community. It's been a pleasure collaborating with them over the past couple of years. So once again, I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, including you, Nkechi. Thank you so much. I am Prince Maduka Nkuku. I am the president of the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee, NAPAC. NAPAC is a 501c4 organization that was formed in the year of 2011 for the purpose of advancing the social welfare of the Nigerian American community. A couple of years after the formation of the 501c4, there was a need to add a charitable component to it. So we went ahead and added the 501c3, which we call the foundation, and their focus is on charitable work. A few years after that, we realized that we need to participate in politics. So we went ahead and added the what we call the 527s by IRS code. 527 allows you to contest and support elections. So with that, we are positioned to support Nigerians who want to contest for elections. And to date, we have successfully supported, promoted no less than 15 to 20 Nigerians in different positions across the United States. And that includes the shadow representative here in Washington, D.C., Dr. Owelewa. We have Carol Kazim in Pennsylvania. We have people in Georgia. And recently, we just had a young man in Texas move from city council to state legislature. In Illinois, we had a very good try at the Congress. And so, as you can see, we have mayors, mayor in California, we have mayor in Colorado. So the Nigerian community is coming along as far as elected positions is, and then that is where NAPAC is playing its own role and contributing to the development of our community here in the United States. So at the end of it, you would see that we hold seats in American boardrooms and legislative chambers, while we also maintain a deep personal ties to families and communities across Nigeria, back home in Nigeria. So we are the bridge. NAPAC is at the forefront of making sure that Nigerians here in the United States is the bridge between America and Nigeria. So we have a position we're in a position to make a difference in the relationship that is beginning to emerge between Nigeria and the United States. So Nigeria is important because part of the topic of today is why is Nigeria important to the United States? Some of the reasons, we're going to go deeper into this as we progress in this briefing. As stated earlier by Mr. Benga, Nigeria's economy and democracy is the biggest in Africa. So with that said, you have to expect the Nigerian immigrant community here to be at the table when things are being discussed about us, and that's where NAPAC comes in. We figure that it's okay to have other people represent you, but if you do it yourself, you do a better job. And NAPAC today is responsible for the communication between even non-Nigerians who are contesting elections and where we have a high percentage of Nigerians. NAPAC is in the forefront of building relationship with those communities, and we believe that this election cycle will even have a better outcome. So with that said, I will yield, and we will, as we delve more into the subjects of this briefing, I'll be able to share more share more facts with you as to why NAPAC is in the position that they're in and where Nigerians are playing important role in the American politics. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the work that NAPAC is doing as far as making sure that a lot of Nigerian Americans are become elected officials. And I think that speaks powerful to the whole purpose of the Nigerian-U.S. relationship. So thank you so much. Dr. Iglo, please, you can go. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Noel Ilogu. I'm president-elect of the Nigerian Physicians Advocacy Group, NPAG. NPAG is a 501c4 affiliate of the Association of Nigerian Physicians in the Americas, AMPA, established specifically to advance advocacy on behalf of our community, both here in the United States and in Nigeria. I am honored to be before you here today alongside other leaders across the Nigerian diaspora. Our president, Dr. Susan Edionwe, could not be with us today, but her vision and leadership has brought us to this moment. I also want to recognize Mr. Benga Ogunjimi and the Nigerian Center, who have put this event together today. We're here because the Nigerian diaspora has a story not being told loudly enough, and because the policies made in these halls directly impact our community, the patients we serve, and the future of our two nations. One issue that I'd like to, a couple of issues we have, but one issue I'd like to bring to your attention, something we're working on. Last year, NPAG came to Capitol Hill to advocate against visa restrictions devastating our healthcare system. We are back because the situation has grown even more urgent. The near total ban on immigration from countries including Nigeria is cutting off a critical pipeline of foreign-trained physicians.
Doctor, I'm so sorry. I really want you to get into this and dive deeper. We're just doing introductions first, and then we're going to go back, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
Will I have an opportunity
Absolutely,
to? Okay.
Absolutely, yes,
All right, so
yes, sir.
It's all about NPAG, and we would like to highlight physician concerns and also what we do for the community, because we work both here in the U.S., particularly among minority populations, and also in Nigeria, where we try to advocate health laws that would help Nigeria and ultimately the world at large. So I'll pause and yield for now.
Yes.
Hope to be back later.
Thank you so much, sir. Jonathan, please. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and thanks very much to the Nigerian Center for having me here. My name is Jonathan Dornhofer, Director of Operations for the U.S.-Nigeria Council for Food Security, Trade, and Investment. We're a nonprofit trade promotion organization dedicated exclusively to improving commercial ties between the United States and Nigeria. So we have corporate members both from Nigeria and from the United States, businesses and entrepreneurs and investors who are involved in the bilateral commercial relationship in one way or another. We convene events throughout the year, and we work pretty closely with the governments in both countries to make sure that the issues and challenges facing the commercial relationship are at the forefront of their minds as they make policy. So I'm excited to be here and talk a little bit about the importance of Nigeria to the U.S. from the commercial and investment side, and look forward to talking a little more about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Ogebe. I'm an international human rights lawyer. I'm with the U.S.-Nigeria Law Group, a Washington-based firm that works on bilateral issues relating to both countries in trade, development, and in human rights. In 2010, I had to take a year off to work pro bono on the conflict going on in Nigeria. It was supposed to be for 1 year, but it has continued for the last 16 years. That's how serious the situation is. But I do want to say that I was thrilled to be invited for this event because we need to have these sorts of conversations. Nigeria is very important to the U.S., as you all can tell. For example, President Carter and President Clinton and Bush all visited Nigeria. And that shows you how significant it is as a nation. I don't forget when I visited Nigeria for the first time from exile, after I was imprisoned by the military and all of that. President Obasanjo said to me, President Bush has just invited me to the US, and I have no clue what he's inviting me for. Now, remember that Obasanjo had hosted Carter, the first time he was military head of state, and then he hosted Clinton when he was president. So he saw a Republican in office who had invited him to Washington, and he was freaked out. What's going on here? And I said to him, Mr. President, don't worry, you will find a friend in Mr. Bush. And Obasanjo came to Washington, and they had a great relationship. I think Obasanjo visited the US more than any other Nigerian president. But why was Obasanjo picked? It turns out that the US was analyzing, we want to establish a relationship with an African leader. And the first person they proposed was the president of South Africa. And they said, no, this guy is controversial on AIDS. Next was Obasanjo. Obasanjo had hosted a summit on HIV/AIDS and invited all these West African presidents. And he actually hugged a guy who had AIDS. And everyone said, this is, magical. And he was selected not because he paid $9 million to lobbyists. He was selected because he had shown leadership in Africa. And so I say that to say that Nigeria has experienced great relations with the US in recent history. And today we're going to have an opportunity to discuss the situationship that Nigeria now has with the US.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. So I'm going to ask a question, and this question will be for each speaker, and I think that it will give you an opportunity, Doctor, to talk about NAPAC's advocacy. So from each organization's perspective, what are top policy priorities Nigerian Americans want Congress to focus on right now? Thank you.
Should I go first then?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. From our perspective, immigration reform would be one of such. We would like to see pathways to citizenship, advocating for clear, accessible pathways to citizenship for Nigerian immigrants who contribute to the United States economy. We would like to see some improvement in family reunification. As far as economy and business goes, access to capital, that will encouraging policies that support Nigerian-owned businesses and startups in the U.S. through grants, loans, and mentorship programs. When you come to health care access, which I know that Doctor will be speaking more about, we would like to see equitable health services, promoting initiatives that ensure Nigerian immigrants have inequitable access to health care, including mental health services. And of course, we can't ignore the needs we have in education and workforce development. We want to see support for STEM education in our community, encouraging policies that support STEM education for Nigerian youths and adults, given their strong presence in these fields, because we are in this education space a lot. And then, of course, it's to our advantage if there's cultural integration and anti-discrimination policies. We would like to see an improvement in those areas that promote diversity and inclusion, even in the face of the anti-DEI posture of things at this time. We would like to see supporting policies that celebrate diversity and ensure representation of Nigerian culture in educational and curricula in public discourse. And finally, for us, from our perspective in the NAPAC, we want to see social services and support networks. We want to see community support programs, promoting policies that support the establishment of community centers that offer resources and information for new immigrants. So, and I know that Nigerian Center is doing a good job of doing that with very little resources. So we're going to expect people like Nigerian Center to be supported, and we're going to expect more centers like that to develop. And in conclusion, on this subject matter, these priorities represent a blend of social, economic, and political needs that can help foster a more inclusive environment for Nigerian immigrants in the United States. You might also want to we should also expect a more involvement from our own elected officials, our own Nigerian. This is why we are supporting them as NAPAC. We hope that they can initiate these processes at their various levels of engagement. So thank you so much. Let me yield and hand over to Dr. Ilogu.
Thank you very much. I may now talk about these
Yes,
issues.
sir. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. It's very important that these issues be brought to the forefront because the near total ban on countries such as Nigeria is cutting off a critical pipeline of foreign trained doctors. Lots of you may not realize it, but we face a projected shortage of about 130,000 physicians in the United States. And Nigerian trained physicians are among the most significant contributors to filling that gap. So closing the door on these physicians is not just restricting immigration, it's restricting healthcare access for many American communities. So that's the one issue that I would like Congress to address. A second issue certainly is something that's on all our minds. Nigeria's designation as a country of particular concern. And MPAG remains deeply concerned about the ongoing security crisis in Nigeria, targeting Christians and also leading to loss of Muslim lives. This is a complex issue, very complex, that requires a multidimensional approach. MPAG is concerned about the designation, but now that it's been made, we need to ensure that it's not an empty label. We call on both governments to be transparent about what that group is doing, the joint group that's been set together. What are the benchmarks they've set, and what accountability do they have to us as citizens and to both nations? We want to have real protection for our communities, the communities back in Nigeria. There are millions of internally displaced Nigerians whose access to healthcare has been shattered by conflict. It's really devastating for these people, and substantive solutions, not just political optics, is necessary. A third issue is the need to revive the Congressional Bipartisan Caucus on Nigeria. We're here to champion that call. This caucus existed in the past and did meaningful work In 1999, there were members of Congress traveled to Nigeria to observe the democratic transition. And since then, it's gone dormant. Sometime in 2024, there was a call. We had witnesses at a congressional hearing on Congress trying to address proactively the reinstitution of this caucus. Okay, so we believe that such a caucus will enable people who have some greater knowledge and understanding of the country, and that way they'll be better suited to articulate the needs of the country when they've studied it a bit more and talked to people who live those lives. The Nigerian American community has earned its seat at the table. We are the largest African diaspora group in the United States. Nearly 30,000 of Nigerian Americans hold a graduate degree, more than double the national rate. Nigerian trained physicians are the largest group of sub-Saharan African doctors in the United States. We are net contributors to this economy and society, and yet our voices remain missing from the national conversations. We hope it will change. In closing, the Nigerian Physicians Advocacy Group is a physician body. We are doctors who are staffing the hospitals and clinics that a lot of vulnerable constituents belong to, filling the gaps. But yet the shortage remains, so more people are needed. When we speak about visa bans, we speak as physicians. When we speak about human rights, we speak as healers who understand what violence does to human bodies and who are acutely aware of the millions of internally displaced Nigerians whose access to healthcare has been destroyed by conflict. When we call for representation, we speak as professionals who know good policy requires the voices of those most impacted by these policies. And so we ask Congress to stand with us on physician visa policy, on transparency around CPC designation, and bringing it to an objective end, and on the revival of the Congressional Bipartisan Caucus on Nigeria. I'll leave the rest of my comments to later, but I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. Jonathan?
Yeah, I think one of the really important opportunities for Congress and for the U.S. government as a whole is to understand that the importance and the value of the U.S.-Nigeria relationship and the commercial relationship is not one-sided. I think we have a tendency in the U.S. to think that our trading relationships, our commercial relationships with African countries, including with Nigeria, are something we do out of benevolence. But it's a $13 billion trading relationship with Nigeria, between the U.S. and Nigeria, and $8 billion of that is U.S. exports to Nigeria. That's a lot of money that the U.S. is making from having a strong relationship with Nigeria. And that translates directly to jobs and economic growth in cities and states around this country. I think that leads to a huge opportunity for kind of a lot of natural members to join a caucus on Nigeria in Congress, because they represent constituents who benefit from this relationship. We have $700 million in motor vehicle exports to Nigeria. That's Michigan, that's Kentucky, that's Tennessee, that's South Carolina. We have exporters of motor vehicles in Maryland and Florida and California. Agricultural exports from much of the central part of the United States, that's about 200 million in exports that go to Nigeria. That's a huge market, and it's a growing market that's going to continue to demand more and more of these products that the U.S. makes. And it's not just the things that we're able to sell to Nigeria, but it's also the benefit that the United States economy derives from strong personal and human ties to Nigeria. As Dr. Ilogu mentioned, the contributions that Nigerian healthcare professionals make in the United States, we have, I think you said 130,000 people is the shortage of staff in the United States, and Nigerian physicians in the US already number in the thousands, I think maybe in the tens of thousands. That's a huge opportunity for us to overcome this gap by having stronger relationships with Nigeria, but obviously that's not possible with certain visa policies as they stand now. The Nigerian startup community, the kind of the vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem of Nigeria, that's something that the United States benefits from as well. 60% of Nigerian startups that choose to incorporate outside of Africa incorporate in Delaware. That's about $2 billion in earnings for the state of Delaware from the franchise tax, a lot of which comes from Nigerian startups. And then I think there are about 800,000 Nigerian Americans, even just by the strictest definition, in the United States. Those are huge contributors to the economy of the entire country, but especially sub-regional economies in Houston and Dallas and Atlanta, here in the DMV. And these are people who are coming to the United States and contributing to the economy, starting businesses, creating employment, creating jobs. Companies that we're all familiar with, like the scheduling company Calendly, were founded by Nigerian Americans. I think a lot of us are familiar with John Olajide in Dallas and the Access company that he leads. These are tangible benefits that our strong relationship with Nigeria brings to the U.S. economy, to U.S. Job growth and economic growth. And what I've tried to do here is sketch out a little bit the contours of what the geographic spread of a congressional caucus on Nigeria should look like. These are representatives and senators from states and districts that benefit very tangibly and directly from having a strong relationship with Nigeria. It's a relationship they shouldn't ignore. And even though a lot of the challenges in the U.S.-Nigeria relationship come from policies out of the executive branch of government, I think if more people on the Hill are aware of the benefits that a strong relationship with Nigeria brings, I think that a caucus on Nigeria would bring a much more forceful oversight function from Congress and from the Hill on what the administration is doing on policy towards Nigeria. So those are just some of the things that we focus on at the U.S.-Nigeria Council to ensure that trade and investment between our two countries can continue to flow freely and grow, because it's a huge opportunity, not just for Nigeria, but also for the U.S.
Thank you. Thank you for that response. Yes, sir.
Yes, so I first came to Congress when I came on exile here 29 years ago. And at that time, we were trying to get the attention of Congress to restore democracy to Nigeria. When that happened, some of us, walked away. I started my firm and all of that. And we didn't know that things would get as bad as they are now, where we're needing the attention of Congress again. I should point out, going back to what the Prince mentioned about his group, that it's great that we have support for Nigerian Americans in public office. I know that one year I just Googled, I saw a bunch of guys, and I just sent them a donation. I don't know them personally. Only one of them has ever been in touch with me. But we can't be talking about having a Nigerian American caucus when we don't have a Nigerian American congressman. That's on us. It's not on anyone else. Okay? We have a Somali immigrant as a congresswoman. We have an Ethiopian as a congresswoman. For our population here, we have failed. And I hope that, we can fix that. Now, with regard to the U.S.-Nigeria relationship, let me point out something very significant. In December, January, and February, the U.S. intervened in 3 countries militarily. All 3 countries were OPEC countries. All 3 countries were low-volume producing countries because some of them were under sanctions. Of those 3 countries, only one's leadership is still intact, and that was Nigeria. That shows you the importance of Nigeria. Now, let me give some historical context so we understand what's going on. From December to February, there have been 6 high-level delegations to Nigeria. That shows you how important Nigeria is. In December alone, there were 2 congressional delegations. It hasn't happened before historically. The last time there were 2 back-to-back congressional delegations to Nigeria was in June 2013, after the Chibok abductions, and I went with both. So there is a heightened interest in Nigeria now. I will point out something very significant, which is that when Chibok happened, President Obama deployed 80 troops to Chad. And we asked, why Chad? They were like, well, in case they tried to bring them to Chad. And when we asked informally, they said, well, we don't trust the Nigerian military. We can't send our troops in. President Trump has sent 200 American souls into Nigeria. I want us to understand that that is putting their lives on the line on our behalf. And so we need to understand that in context. Now, do we need a U.S.-Nigeria caucus? Yes, we do. And we did have one until very recently. Sheila Jackson Lee, of blessed memory, and Steve Chabot were both, a Republican and Democrat who co-chaired that caucus. It's very saddening that we lost her a little over a year ago. But this was someone who was so animated about Nigeria. A Nigerian wouldn't have done better in Congress than Sheila Jackson did for us. I remember her calling me one day and saying, look, Emmanuel, where are my people? You guys need to come. We need to have a press conference. And so I called around and we came. And I remember saying to our community here in Washington, D.C., is it the job of the Congresswoman to call us, or is it our job to call the Congresswoman? Do you know that was the last phone conversation I had with her before she died? And so I realized that, sometimes when some people are about to go, they walk with an urgency. And later on, you understand why that happened. And so we have great shoes to fill. But let me tell you, it wasn't until I went for her memorial that I understood her. There were a lot of people who said, she's, very impassioned, she's this, she's that. She schooled in Nigeria. She spent a year studying in Nigeria in the 60s, in the golden age of Nigeria. And that's why she loved Nigeria so much. Her character was Nigeria. She was really firebrand like Nigeria. And so I think it is time for us to raise Nigerian American congressmen. I want to wrap up my remarks by pointing out that, as my colleague here mentioned, the U.S. trade balance is $8 billion in favor of the U.S. That's not good for Nigeria. When President Buhari came to visit Trump in 2018, at that time, our trade balance from 2015 was $500 million in favor of the U.S. Nigeria had only exported $32 million to the U.S. And during that meeting, Trump got Buhari to sign an agreement to buy grain from the U.S. And that's why it shot up to the $8 billion he's referring to now. Now, here is why I said that policy and that agreement was destructive. The Nigerian farmer in the Middle Belt has already had his farms destroyed by herdsmen. Why are you destroying what he has left by importing grain from America? And so we have presidents who show up unprepared for meetings, and they sign agreements that are deleterious to us. I just got back from London. The same thing happened last week. Tinubu showed up in London. He was feted for 2 days. He signed a £750 million agreement to import steel from the UK. And he signed an agreement to deport Nigerians from the US by a letter. By a letter. You can be issued a letter and you're deported. So that policy was against his own diaspora that remits billions to his economy, $22 billion a year. And so we do need to have these conversations where we look at policies and see how they impact us, and we influence those policies. I will end by saying that I align my remarks with the first gentleman, the Prince, who talked about immigration policy. As we speak, the United States banned Nigerians the first term of Trump, but they made an exception for medical doctors because they know they need our doctors. But this time around, I don't think they have that exception. It's a wholesale ban. But here's what's really egregious. While you're saying, Christians are being persecuted in Nigeria, all of that, the United States banned the airlift of thousands of Nigerians who are in refugee camps in Cameroon last year. Under the previous administration, 97 refugees had been airlifted to the US. And then this administration came in and banned the airlifts. Unfortunately, after 12 years, under international law, after 7 years, they're eligible for resettlement. They've been there 12 years. And unfortunately, a few weeks ago, some of them were taken back to Nigeria, and Boko Haram attacked them and killed them after spending 12 years in a refugee camp waiting to go to America. So again, we have to interrogate America and say, listen, you can't be saying this and doing exactly the opposite. I know the Nigerian Center has been campaigning for TPS for forever. This is the time when they should implement TPS because the conditions are rife. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And my next question is kind of connected to where you left off, sir, and this is and I would love to ask you, Mr. Emmanuel, this question. How can diaspora communities, I know you were very instrumental in the previous congressional caucus with Congresswoman Sheila Jackson, and you mentioned that she called and said, "Where are my people?" And I know that even during the times when we were working on our TPS campaign, some of the feedback we got from USCIS or DHS was they didn't hear enough noise from our people. And so my question is, how can the diaspora communities, and this is for everyone, but I would like to start with Mr. Emmanuel, how can diaspora communities serve as strategic partners in shaping effective U.S.-Nigeria policy moving forward? Thank you, sir.
Yes, of course, the first thing is elect a Nigerian American to Congress. But here's the thing. What I've noticed about Nigerians in diaspora is that we're great individually, but we're not great collectively. Everyone is his own king and kingdom, and we're not able to work together. Now, a couple of things that have happened illustrate this. The first was we were trying to get Boko Haram designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Like, how complicated is that? It's a terrorist organization. It blows up people. It's killed people from 15 countries. We started a petition to designate it on the White House website. Do you know that the State Department asked Ambassador Campbell to find 20 Americans to write to oppose it? So 20 American professors wrote opposing the designation of Boko Haram as a foreign terrorist organization. This is the first time a terrorist group has had this many academics on their side. And the thing is, if you go to Howard University, if you go to Maryland, you will find, if you throw a rock, you will hit 20 Nigerian American professors. And none of us was in that discussion. I was the one leading the effort. And I never forget the fact that an American professor was one of the signatories who signed our petition on the White House website. We were looking for 100,000 signatures. We didn't get up to 10,000 to designate Boko Haram as a foreign terrorist organization. So fast forward to Trump term. Trump banned Nigerians from the US. I was like, finally, this one affects all of us. So Nigerians will rally. We started another petition on the website. We didn't get 20,000 Nigerians to sign a petition to unban them. So we do have a strong lethargy in our community. If you have a party and Owambe Nigerians will show up in full color, if you want to have a discussion of this nature. I mean, look at this place. This place should be full. So what needs to happen is we mustn't give up. We must have these conversations. They must not be one-sided. In other words, there must be a free flow of ideas. Don't come with an agenda, and we can make progress. But if you come in with an agenda, we've taken, this is our position, no change, we will not make any traction. And of course, again, political activism, we have to have that. But let me add one quick thing, the doctor is here. They are doing great work, and we need to appreciate that the brain drain is a gain to America and a loss for our country and our people. Because guess what? The American who goes to medical school has loans to pay. The Nigerian who trained in Nigeria got a free education from the Nigerian government. And instead of, serving his people, America has poached him. So America is stealing intellectual property from Africa for their healthcare system. Now, the good thing I like about them is that they go back to Nigeria and they do medical interventions. I'm working with one of their teams in Nigeria next month. We're bringing victims of Boko Haram from the north to the southeast so that they'll get medical attention. But I want to point out that unfortunately we have a situation where the groups are so southern focused that they go to southern communities where they actually have the capacity to take care of themselves and neglect the north. I'll end with a funny story. I have some, medics from my church here in the US who went with me on a medical mission to Nigeria in 2014. And so recently they went for a medical mission in Lagos. And from there, they were coming to the north to join me to do a medical mission. All the Nigerian American doctors who came with them said, no, don't go to the north. They'll kill you. They're killing people there. And the girl said, no, I've been to Jos before. Oh, my goodness, you've been to Jos? And that just shows you that the South, there's such a disconnect that there's more Americans doing medical missions in northern Nigeria than there are Nigerian Americans doing medical missions in northern Nigeria. So we need to fix that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan, you can have the floor. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, since I'm not a member of the diaspora, it's hard for me to say. But I think these kinds of events, something like this is exactly the kind of thing that the diaspora can be very strong on, speaking with one voice and speaking collectively and demonstrating to members of Congress, but also members of the administration and members of the public, the impact that U.S. government decisions have on the U.S.-Nigeria relationship, and the added benefits that a stronger relationship can have for U.S. citizens, for the U.S. as a whole. So yeah, I think as Emmanuel just mentioned, it's that the struggle to speak as one voice, sometimes not showing up and not being in the room, that's often a big lack. And so being able to speak collectively and convene events like this, I think that's something that can be impactful and powerful.
Thank you.
If I may add to the discussion and agree that we all need to get involved. I think that's something that we should spread, the news we should spread among our communities and among our families. We need to get involved. If you stay on the sidelines, things don't happen. I can understand some of the issues Nigerian families have, especially when they come over here. They're very interested in fulfilling their primary objective. And as human beings, our primary goal is often sustenance of ourselves. So a lot of them are so much involved in trying to work and provide for their families, they hardly have time to devote to greater cause. But the more we understand that by getting more involved and being involved in the greater cause, we can alleviate some of the suffering and some of the work that we have to do eventually, or some of the work our children have to do. And we've got to look beyond ourselves. We have to look beyond ourselves. We can't afford to be too selfish, otherwise we're going to self-destruct. So I think on the political side, on the medical side, getting involved is goal. And talking about medical missions, we also preach this to other doctors, to get involved in advocacy, in doing medical work, giving back to the country. The Nigerian physicians, the AMPA, Association of Nigerian Physicians in the Americas, is highly involved in transfer of medical knowledge from here. So having a good foothold in America is important. The relationship is good. Yes, it benefits America, but also it benefits Nigeria because we take back medical knowledge to Nigeria. But because we understand that in fulfilling our objective for the greater association, which is a healthier Nigeria in a healthier world, for us to be able to achieve that, we need good governance in Nigeria. And that's why we formed the advocacy group, so that we can advocate for that. Because when physicians feel unsafe, they're not going to want to go. Okay, they understand this a little better than the average American who has not had a relative who's come to harm in certain parts of the country. So the Nigerian physician is more sensitized to these things. So we need good governance that will ensure safety so that when people move back home, that they can afford to thrive at their greatest potential. And so we'll keep working on it, but we all need to get involved.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So I'm actually more optimistic about the future for Nigerian community. In our work in NAPAC, we are beginning to see an increased interest in civic service and civic responsibility. And that is why we believe that the revival of the Congressional Caucus, Nigerian Congressional Caucus, will help us a lot in creating that mechanism that will help us address and advance our interests. However, where we are today as a community, as an immigrant community, if you are realistic and think back 20 years ago, the gentleman that spoke earlier said he's been here for 31 years. 31 years ago, as immigrants, we were still dealing with sustenance. We were still dealing with raising our children, situating ourselves in the society that we found ourselves in. Most of us came here not to stay. We came to go to school, get a degree, and go home. That was the objective. When I came, that was the plan. So today we are here, we're still here, and now we've seen that, look, our children are here, we're not going anywhere, we might as well dig in, and that is why NAPAC's focus is making sure that representation is done by people who speak our language. So the only way to go about this is the way we are doing it now, which is collaborating, organizing events like this, communicating with people who are not here to be at spaces like this. Like the gentleman said, it's easier for us to go to parties, but when it comes to things that actually add value and support policies that affect our community, we're a bit lackluster about it. And those of us who are in this space, it's a calling. We can only do more. We're like pastors. Pastors are called to spiritual activities. We are called to civic responsibility. The person who doesn't understand this will probably not understand it. So it's a calling. And you find our type. In NAPAC, that's what we do. I don't preach to Nigerian to be Nigerian. I don't waste my time. If you can't see what we're doing, this is not the time for that. So we will continue doing what we're doing, and I'm happy to see that our rep, Carol Kazim, is here. She's a first-generation Nigerian, and the work that they must do for us is very important because our children are like her, American, born here. When they see her in this space, they are motivated to step in, and we're hoping that the more of them do that, the more we get represented, the more people will get motivated in that space, and the less we'll spend at Owambe, and more we'll spend a little bit more of it in the political engagement. So I'm optimistic, and we'll continue to do the work. So let me yield and take the next question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your response. So this is the final question. It's really just any final remarks. We have staffers in the room from different congressional offices. So with our outreach, we obviously were advised to have a bipartisan leadership for the caucus. And so we reached out to different offices and we gave our pitch for why we believe the caucus should be reinstated. And so the purpose of this forum, this briefing, was to do just that, educate, have all of them in the room and educate them on why the caucus is vital. And so I wanted to ask if you have any last remarks for staffers that may be in the room as to why this caucus should be reinstated. And following that last question, we'll open up the floor for questions from our audience. Thank you.
Should I go first?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Nkechi. So from my perspective and that of NAPAC, we would like to see the Congressional Caucus, Nigerian Congressional Caucus, revived for the purpose and reasons that we've stated here earlier, which is that it will present and provide the mechanism through which we will, as a community, be able to advance and protect, deliver a narrative that is reflective of who we are. And for us as a community, we are trying our best, like Emmanuel said, to get one of us into Congress. We have a lady running for Congress in DMV area. I think Wala Blage is making running for Congress there. We had one that tried in Illinois. She didn't succeed at this time. So we would like to let the people in Congress here know that we believe that mechanism will help a lot in pushing our Nigerians' agenda as a very strategic partner to the United States. It is important that we are giving that support. And for us as a community and as an organization, we are prepared to provide administrative support that caucus is going to require, because I know it's easier. It would have been easier if there were Nigerians in Congress to do this. So asking somebody who is from Oklahoma who has no Nigerian in the constituency to be on that caucus is a bit challenging in terms of resources, but we as a community, we are aware of that. We are willing to provide us administrative support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We do realize that there's great need for the caucus. When people understand a country, a community, they are better able to advocate for those people. It's often said, don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. Yes, we have issues in Nigeria. There's security issues, governance issues. But if people understand the country, the people, talk more to the people who actually live those lives, they're going to be better advocates for us. And they will also benefit. So we need to understand that Nigeria is not monolithic. You know, the security concerns in the north is different from that in the middle belt, is different from that in the south. So when you hear different narratives, some people get confused. If we had a caucus that understand, they'll be better able to address it. It will also enhance Nigeria-America relations to the benefit of America. So it becomes a bilateral relationship that works best for everybody. And yes, we do need to champion and support those people who support our cause.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
I think what members of Congress and staffers on the Hill, what I'd hope they take from this also is to look a little deeper and realize that Nigeria presents such a huge opportunity for U.S. engagement and the U.S. relationship. Certainly in the trade and investment issues, in the human connection issues that we've talked a lot about here already, but also in security. The Sahel is now the epicenter of global terrorism, and that's the instability that comes from there affects obviously Nigeria and the rest of the countries in the region, but also the United States and the rest of the world. And combating that and finding a solution to that is much better done in collaboration with and in conjunction with and in conversation with Nigeria, the biggest country, the biggest economy in that region, than trying to do it alone and trying to figure it out just from here as the United States. So a congressional caucus on Nigeria that understands those opportunities in people-to-people connections, in economic relations, but also in security cooperation and true cooperation, a true bilateral dialogue on that. That's something that a congressional caucus on Nigeria could do and could play a very big role in making sure that the entire U.S. government takes a much more holistic view of what the benefits are of a strong relationship with Nigeria.
Thank you.
Yes, so before I give my closing remarks, I wanted to quickly tie up one loose end, which is, I never forget how many years ago under President Bush, I got a phone call from the White House. They were inviting me to an event. And his assistant said to me, Emmanuel, who do you represent? And I had never been asked that question before. And that was when I realized that we didn't have a community like, the Nigerian Center that I could say, this is our group, we're coming. Now, I've been fortunate to be able to build my brand as an international human rights lawyer. I have to be independent. That's why I work in a bipartisan fashion. But we do need our groups working together to get things done in Washington. It's the power of the vote. If you don't represent groups of numbers of people who can vote, you have no influence to play in town. Now, one other quick thing. Last week, I was on Facebook, clicking on birthdays for people, my friends. I rarely do that, but that day, it was my dad's birthday, so I said I'll check everybody else going down. And all of a sudden, I saw my friend's name, and I said to myself, wait, isn't he dead? He died, but no one had deactivated his Facebook page. This was my childhood friend who was abducted. A ransom was paid, but by the time they released him, he died because he didn't have his inhaler with him while he was in captivity. And we need to understand that 80% of Nigerian Americans are from the South. You don't know our experience, and you can't speak for us. And so when I speak, I represent Nemo and others who have died and who are not being spoken for by the rest of you who don't know our story. So having said that, let me say to the congressional folks that Nigeria is very important to the US because Nigeria played a key security role in Liberia, which is the only African country that has American DNA. Nigeria spent over $12 billion protecting and bringing peace to and stability to Liberia. Nigeria was boots on the ground for the US so that US soldiers didn't need to die. Nigerians died for America in Liberia. So America owes Nigeria a moral debt. And now that Nigeria is in a predicament, America should work with Nigeria on that. As he ably pointed out, the US makes billions of dollars from Nigeria. And, they need to protect that investment. The US also has oil companies in Nigeria. So there's every reason why we should engage. But I think the most important point that was made was that Nigeria is now the epicenter of global jihadism. There's anywhere between 8 and 40 global jihadi terrorist groups operating in Nigeria. They moved from Syria to Nigeria. And so the US has an opportunity to confront it. But let me point out something very significant. The US had 2 bases in Niger, and one of them was a drone base and one was a regular base. And they were kicked out. And it was from there that they were coordinating counterterrorism in the whole Sahel. Now, with the loss of those 2 bases, what did the US do? They took the risk of sending 200 troops to Nigeria, something they never wanted to do before, including drones to Nigeria. So I have to emphasize, this is a credit to America, because remember in Washington, there's so many countries vying for attention of the United States. We're just one of 200. Nobody has time, for your mess. The fact that they're making out time to value our lives is something that we should appreciate, and we should make sure that we work to maximize. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And that concludes our panel discussion. Please give a round of applause for all our very well-spoken, very educated speakers. And so now I'm going to open the floor to the audience for questions. Yes, sir.
So my name is Chris Nwajuru. I'm Nigerian American. And it's been 10 years since I've been back to Nigeria, but in a couple of days I'm going back to contest for president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria come 2027. I believe in international collaboration and international cooperation. I believe in strong private sector growth and strong economic growth. And I believe in diaspora engagement. And I believe that the United States and Nigeria have a strong connection, a strong partnership that has lasted for so long. And I believe in the coming days and weeks and months and years and decades ahead, our partnership is going to be crucial, going to be consequential in the coming days and in the coming years ahead. So I believe the CPC designation by the United States of America is very important, but I also believe that there's a lack of leadership in Nigeria. I believe there's a lack of political will. I believe there should be, in order to reduce insecurity in Nigeria, there should be refocus on the 4 defense strategies, which are internal security, military reforms, what else? And border defense and international cooperation as well. But I believe that also there are underlying issues as well as far as corrupt forces within our security architecture that need to be addressed. But I believe that we should continue this dialogue. It's a great dialogue we're having. This congressional hearing is very important. What the Nigerian Center is doing is very important. Our panelists here have shed light on very important information that we all need to hear and we all need to reflect on as well. So, but I think for this, I'm thankful for this whole session convening, and we look forward to future engagements. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Question, sir? Yes, sir.
My name is Richard Iyasere. I'm from New York. I'm the chairman of NAPAC. That's my president right there. Most of this problem has been identified. Basically, Africa is a little pocket of people, and that unity, somebody spoke about it earlier, we don't have that unity that binds us together, and that problem is still lingering up to today. My question is, here now that we are here, we are more educated now, we know technology. What are some kind of mechanism in place, or is there anybody here planning something? Let's just start from here. I have heard at Nigerian Center, NAPAC, Nigerian nurses, Nigerian physicians, is there some kind of a mechanism to merge this whole different pack of villages that we still carried over here let's start by putting everybody together. Is there any mechanism? Is there anybody working on that? Is there any idea on how to put this whole different little packet together so that a project like this can be achieved? Without that, we're not going to be able to achieve that. I just want people to start thinking about that, on what we can do to, first of all, merge all of us together so we can have one voice. Anybody have any answer to it? I would love to put some.
I could very quickly, thank you so much, sir, for your question, because it's very important and vital. And there actually is a Nigerian coalition, and you have representatives from the Nigerian coalition on the as panelists. And so even prior to the most recent CPC designation, Nigerian Center, NAPAC, and NIDCOM all came together to sit down, and NIDO came together to sit down and talk about educating our community. As we know, we've all kind of referenced how there's a need for us to come together. So we all started with educating our community on what is even CPC, how does it impact Nigeria, how does it impact the US? And so I would say that there is a coalition, to answer your question, and I think that maybe at the end of this convening, you're a part of the mailing list, I'm sure. We can discuss how you can be a part of that coalition. And so anytime that the coalition is the one that came together to say, let's push for this caucus. And so yes, it exists, and we would love to talk to you at the end of this briefing to see how you can be a part of that. Thank you, sir.
Can I quickly just add to that?
Yes, sir.
Nigerian Americans are the most economically empowered and politically disenfranchised group anywhere on the planet. We have no influence in the US, and we have no influence at home. We don't even have diaspora voting rights. We need to insist that the Nigerian government should give us diaspora voting rights. They want us, thank you very much, they want us to influence policy here in the US. When they're not giving us the ability to influence policy at home. We must make that happen. Thank you.
Can I add to that? One of the, just like Nkechi said, we do have a coalition that we formed to address some of the issues affecting our community. What we found out is that when there is something specific happening to our community, it's easier to call groups together. And I can recall when we had a meeting with the embassy to discuss consular services that, in our view at the time, was poor. a lot of Nigerians came out because that was something that affected a lot of people. The consular services were not up to par. So we came together, and that was our first collaborative work with multiple organizations. And then came the issue of the designation of the CPC. And prior to the CPC designation, we actually were making moves because Nigerian Center was privy to some musings to redesignate Nigeria. So we came together and were able to at least address the issue with the congressmen's offices. So I think, to answer your question, my New York man from NAPAC, we believe that the coalition can be expanded. It is, like you said, it is the work of everyone here. It's groups, and we cannot disregard the purposes for which each organization was formed. You have to maintain the reason for which you are formed. These are usually loose organizations. We come together on issues-based coalition and collaboration. So the MPAC will always be there for what we are formed to do. NAPAC will always be there for what we are formed to do. The socio-cultural groups, one challenge we are having is to penetrate our faith-based organizations. For whatever reason, they fail to understand that Martin Luther King was a pastor on whose backs we are riding. So all of us here belong to one church or the other, one faith-based. So we need to get past that and penetrate that. There's a block. And that is where we have the largest Nigerian population, where we can influence the most. So it is our hope that our faith-based organizations will join the effort. Once they do, it's game over, because we have one. I don't want to say their name here, but one of those organizations has 900 parishes in the United States. Can you imagine if they're activated? So let me yield.
Yes, sir. Did anyone else on the panel? Yes, sir.
If I may add that, yes, the NPAG, Nigerian Physicians Advocacy Group, is part of the effort to form a coalition of diaspora groups, and certainly will be more powerful. Like you said, we can't merge because we all represent individual focus, but our overarching goal is the same: a better Nigeria and a better world. So we as individuals and as members of our organizations need to preach that message of service above self. Because what happens with a lot of Nigerian groups is that no sooner do they form, individuals are highly opinionated. Before you know what's happening, it disintegrates. So we as individuals need to preach service above self so that we can stay together as our organizations and achieve our goals and not just make it about ourselves, and also to ensure that we're working in collaboration for the greater good. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Did you want to contribute?
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think this is a practical challenge to us. Let's launch a campaign, One Nigeria Voice, or One Voice Diaspora, and let people sign up on an individual basis. And what we're going to do is, one, advocate for diaspora voting rights, and two, advocate for the issues that affect us in this community. Let's launch it in the next few days. Let's see how we can get people to respond. Just an idea.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I think that beyond launching a campaign, by the way, I'm Dr. Lillian Agbegbe. I'm the chair of NAPAC DMV. I'm also a public health practitioner. And one of the things I will say for public health is smoking was not always banned. Many years of advocacy before we get to the place where you can't smoke in some public places and things like that. So I'm not always discouraged when something hasn't happened yet, because I think that there's an opportunity for progression and for things to change. The first time I came to Congress, I was living and working in New York. And we came to advocate against Ryan White funding courts that was going to impact the state of New York. Then I was in Texas and I came to Congress. I've come here to advocate for human trafficking laws. I've come here to advocate for intimate partner violence laws. I know that this is the seat of power. And it is a culture for me, so I can come and do it. This is not something that Nigerians are familiar with or that they're used to. And so we're holding, even though those of us who have been here forever, we hold on to our Owambe parties, we hold on to our faith communities, because that's what we're used to. Now, the way we are going to change that culture is for every single person individually. Look for an opportunity in your cultural organization, in your faith community, not to have a full-blown meeting, but to take 5 minutes during an event. Oh, by the way, I do have this person here who wants to say something. So that we begin to understand that we need to move from presence to power. We are visible in every place that we ought to be visible, except in the political front. And it's a culture we don't have. We don't have the culture of volunteering our time. We don't have the culture of donating for people who are running for office. We don't have the culture for running for office. It's going to take us time. We need to be strategic, and we need to take small wins. It doesn't have to be a big campaign. Your church meeting, somebody speaks for 5 minutes, somebody's 50th birthday, somebody's 70th birthday, somebody's housewarming. It doesn't matter what it is. Let's begin to have those conversations and begin to think that we need to be present and we need to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you. So right now, thank you so much for your response. So right now, I'll have, we can have questions after Executive Director Benga. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before you go, please hold on. At this moment, I want to have the honor to bring to the stage, all the way from Pennsylvania, Rep. Karo Kazim. Rep. Karo Kazim is an elected Nigerian American public official, doing us proud, speaking up, becoming a symbol for representation in the state of Pennsylvania. And we are so thrilled that she's here today. Before she comes, I did a quick remark a few weeks ago that from our district, that the elementary school I went to Nigeria, in northern Nigeria, called Essence International School, was actually founded by a Nigerian American woman from Philly, from Pennsylvania, Mrs. Mohammed. She left Nigeria and she was adopted by the emir of that region, and she founded the school in 1980. And it was my first encounter experience of the Black American culture. It was a very Americanized culture on campus then, and she would see in me agency, civic engagement, from my early years to come to America to evangelize African culture the same way she brought Black culture to us. So it's my honor to present Rep. Karo Kazim from Pennsylvania.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I know we had a change in the way the program went, so I apologize. Unfortunately, when we get on 95, we get blocked with traffic, even if you're on the road 3 hours ahead. So I apologize. First off, I just want to say thank you and welcome, and this is my president because I'm also a member of NAPAC. I'm here today as State Representative Karo Kazim. As Benga has introduced me, I represent the state of Pennsylvania, specifically in the 159th district, but as I tell people in our positions and our roles, we have to represent the whole entire state. So I was brought here today to give some remarks and to also just talk about what my role looks like, but what that looks like as far as partnership, whether it's through Congress, whether it's through Nigeria, and what does that look and mean for us as elected officials, and how you guys can also be engaged. And I'm just gonna share a few things, because I don't talk about a lot often, but so the first thing I wanted to speak about was, one, why representation is important. So first is, I'm the first woman to serve in my seat. I'm also, to date, the only and first Nigerian American elected, but also the only person in the African diaspora that represents the whole entire state to this very date. We need to change it, though. And then third, I'm also the youngest woman that still serve in the state of Pennsylvania on the state side, whether it's House or Senate. And I want everyone to understand, because I know we talked about representation and leadership, it was not easy. It wasn't easy, one, because I never ran or sat in a public official seat. And many people said, well, Carol, you're jumping 5 steps ahead. How we do it, the way it's supposed to go first start in the committee. And I said, well, if you knew the God I serve, second, if you knew the blood I come from, we jumped 10 steps. So you're even lucky I went 5 instead of 10, because 10 I probably would have been in U.S. Senate. So, but I'm saying that to say that sometimes when you see things taking place, not only in your communities, but also globally, it prompts you to want to step up. Many people asked me to run, whether it was from Congress to Senate to House. I didn't want to. I was interested in politics of the way things went as far as policies, but I never saw myself specifically sitting in a seat. I was an advocate and I was also an activist. My job and what I was focusing on was combating global poverty through education. It was also fighting injustice across the globe, especially here in the United States, and even across my state. Whether that was reforming the criminal justice, whether that was reforming things in the police department and the policies, whether it was reforming our education system, even if it was around rights. All of those things were my priorities. I was also a trauma-informed specialist, so one of the things that I did was diffusing gun violence, diffusing crime, and bringing trauma and inform as an awareness. So that was not my lane. But one day when I laid down and I was watching something taking place in the House here in D.C., at that moment something woke me up and said, it's either you're going to do it now or you're going to always watch your people suffer. And that's when I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I called one person. I told someone else. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't even know how to do it. I realized there was no information given on how to even run. Nobody had any blueprint on the paperwork you needed or anything. So all I did was I said, okay, I'm going to pray about it, and I'm just going to go ahead. I wanted to step out, but something said you can't pull out now. I didn't know how far out it was actually going to change things. I came against a 40-year family dynasty that was actually currently sitting in that seat. So I wasn't just taking down one person, I was taking down a machine. I was also going against the status quo, because that dynasty had other contributors that they were a part of in the state and throughout the United States, believe it or not. They were meeting with investors across different countries to bring in jobs, to bring in trades, to bring in all types of different stuff. Now, I said I never ran for a seat. I was thinking about advocating for the people. I didn't know at this point, now I was going to be having investors at my table and talking to them about, let me talk to you about Nigeria. And I'm going to tell you how that goes. But here I am. We beat all odds with the support of God, with the support of many, few I know that is here. Here I am. Now, economically, because I heard the speakers talked about Nigeria, how that can change things between Nigeria and the United States. Nigeria, believe it or not, for those who didn't hear already, is already one of the largest trading partners in Africa. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, because we have one of the largest ports, we still have not secured contracts. And that is right now what we are trying to do. I'm currently even talking with the World Trade Center about trying to establish tours to open up the doors that what they may see in the media is not always what it is, where they can connect with farmers, where they can connect with business owners, where they could connect with people directly in Nigeria. A lot of those individuals that they think is a problem, like I told them, you don't even know China has already been sped up. Other places, Europe is they already have gained to everything. What is America's problem? We think we too good. That's what I told them. I'm only talking about what I said to them. Now, I know that together we can work to strengthen commerce, like we have already been doing, expanding opportunities for businesses, and foster innovation that benefits both of our nations. One of the things that I just did recently, we had a meeting, and somebody came and said they wanted to bring something around oil. There's a lot of conflicts in my area about that. But one of the things that I talked to them about when this person came to me who has a business, almost $1 billion business, and they said, this is what I want to do. They brought up all of the presentations, and just so you know, you can give me all the pictures. That's never going to faze me. I need to read the papers. That's one of the things that we have lacked. When I hear my brother here talks about the contracts that were secured, the problem with that is that we don't read. We don't read what's in front of us. What we hear is the dollar sign. If you ask me, greed is one of the reasons why we are where we are right now. And that was what exactly put us in a place of lack of trust, in addition to security, but it's the greed. It's the greed. If we read the papers, we would know what we signing our people up to, and we would know what exactly we're selling. I met with a governor directly in Nigeria, who I invited to come down. I won't say his name. And what I said to him is, hey, why are you making all these different contracts? And his thing is, if you have the money, I'll give you this too. And I said, is it the FD? He said, we need the money. I said, how do we need the money when we are the largest trade in the African diaspora? We're not broke in Nigeria. I don't have to live there to tell you we're not broke. So where are you not following the dollars? Something you're doing you're not seeing either. And you're here to talk to us about how we can expand the land. He wanted to get something going with the port. So I'm saying that to say that if we start to come to a place where we're reading and we begin the partnership and the unity my brother talked about, then we will actually see Nigeria in a different map. So that's the one thing. Now with that individual with the oil, he brought up all the different gas companies, Shells, BP, everybody. And I asked him one question. Do you know where they get all their oil from? I think some Europe. No, not all. Do you know where Russia get theirs from? Couldn't answer some of that. So I said, who exactly is putting into this business that you want to put that you keep telling me is going to be a global boom that's going to bring billions, trillions to America? And he said, this investor and that investor. And I said, I need to speak with those investors. Then I said, okay, now we had a meeting with those investors. And I said, where do you live? One said, I live in the Middle East. One said, I live in East Africa. One said, I live here. And I said, well, how did you get here? I said, so you have oil directly in your neighborhood. Why are you doing business way over there? Then they said, now you need to be in foreign affairs and global trade, I think he told me. He said, come over there, sister, now you want to see about what oil we're selling. But I brought that up because I said, hey, did you see about Nigeria? Yeah, but, the leadership and I said, but do you know that some of the people that you are already in business with is getting their stuff from over there? And he said, I said, so you'll save money. They're charging you higher because the time that they have to take to get their products from over there to get it from over here, they're going to charge you instead of going directly. So one of them have a meeting with someone. And they said, I'll get back to you. So I told them nothing is going to fly until you start having conversations with the right people, and I need to know exactly from every hole that it's coming from. You can't tell me that you want something, but you're doing business with 5, 6 other people, and I don't know who they are. Because if anything messes up, if anything stops here, then I need to know who to be held responsible. So that's the problem that we're not only are we having here, but in Nigeria. We're not holding ourselves accountable, and greed has brought us to a place where we lost our way. Now, when it comes to initiatives that promote entrepreneurship, that's something that I know we can do as elected officials. Energy development, that's one of the highest topic right now, and also infrastructure. The U.S.-Nigeria relationship continues to create pathways for shared growth. Now, across this nation, and our president here can testify, and he already spoke on it, that we have elected officials, some that are currently running, some that are currently sitting in a seat. I'm one. And we have folks from school boards to city councils to county governments and state legislators. And we need someone in Congress. And I pray that we put someone in Congress. Don't look at me because I'm not sure if I'm going there yet. So I still have stuff to hand over there in PA, but I've been conversation with everyone, so we'll see where we go. But Nigerian Americans are stepping into leadership and public service. These leaders bring with them a powerful combination of cultural heritage, professional excellence, and a deep commitment to community and development. Local government is where policy meets people. It's where decisions are made about education, public safety, housing, economic development, and health. Nigerian American officials currently right now bring unique strength to all of these roles. They bring a global perspective rooted in two vibrant democracies. They bring cultural values centered around education, family, faith, and community responsibility. And we also bring entrepreneur spirit that drives innovation and a problem solving. So what does that mean? Recently, we just passed a legislation, which some of you guys probably know because you probably met her. She's originally from Pennsylvania, but she's been raised and doing work here in DC. The Crown Act, that actually pushes for legislation around not discriminating against, your hair. And it was prompted because majority of the time, black women faced discrimination of how their hair is, and we went through burning chemicals and putting perm and so forth just to be able to look like what society told us to look. But what's important about that is it's not just the legislation itself, it's actually who brought it to the table. That woman is from Ghana. If you actually know her name, people just call her Dr. Oz, she's actually Ghanaian. She was just raised here. Her herself, who being an advocate, was the representation. And you know what's crazy about it? Even though she meets with different individuals to try to get this bill passed, nobody never even took the time to ask her, where exactly are you from? Your name is all. They just know they're trying to get certain things for pictures. But she was passionate about it. So the fact that a woman from the diaspora, who does not sit in a public official seat, who came back home to the state of Pennsylvania, which is not an easy state to pass a legislation like that, who was able to get something like that signed into law as of 2 days ago. I stood with her right there next to my governor. He did not understand the meaning. He didn't get it. He did his research. And I was proud of her. She changed the dynamic of Pennsylvania. She helped write a law with the backing of someone like me. It was her legislation. So imagine someone who grew up in Ghana, came here, got her U.S. citizenship, and actually put a law in place here in the state of Pennsylvania, and then she's on her way to the next state. Because the goal is to pass it as a law throughout the whole United States. Now, like I said to her, take that back to Ghana and get some work done too. So there's no excuses for any of us. If she grew up where she grew up and she came here and made a law in the state of Pennsylvania, a woman from Ghana who's our sister, there's no excuse. Now, why couldn't she go back home and make other legislations? Because what we just talked about. She was able to get it done. So we are actually shaping America. We are changing the way things are moving here in this country, and we have the ability to do the same to bring collaboration between our countries. Another thing is the trade, the port. We have one of the largest ports in my state. And I know for a fact we can and we will secure contracts. That is the goal. Imagine what that can do, not just in Pennsylvania, but throughout the United States. Because the things that come in and out throughout that port goes throughout everywhere throughout this country. So just imagine if I can help secure the contracts from Nigeria directly here, that changes the dynamic. So I'm saying all this, I'm sorry to hold you guys up because I was supposed to speak before they spoke, but things had happened. But I want you guys to understand the importance of it. We're not up here just having a conversation. The reason why I'm bringing all these things up is because I'm expecting you all to move in action to do something after everything that I'm bringing forth to you. Because not only am I in a seat, but I also need the backing of you guys to come forth with the ideas, with the strategies, to say this is what we need to do. And then not only are we talking about doing it here, but also going back home to meet with those leaders. Because it was once I brought that governor, once I brought some of those representatives here and had to get on them, we had a separate conversation. We had to move all the American citizens out of the room, and we had to have our own personal conversation, and we had to fight for a minute in the room. I did. We had to, because I was not happy with the way things are moving back home. But I had to have a conversation with them to let them know, what are we doing? And I asked them, what exactly is your goal here today? We have not sat down and came up with a plan. So once we put a plan in place and we understand the importance of why we're in our seats, why you guys are in your seats, and them understanding why they are in their seats. Because some of them may feel like they don't have back, and they said to me, well, Carol, You're saying all this, but when we go back home, it's going to be a different story. Somebody would get us, and I understand that too. But that's why it's too many of us here. I think you said 800,000. Actually, because of the census and the way things are now reported, from what I know, it's 1 million. 1 million people. 1 million people in the U.S. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's more, because there's more babies coming out of wombs soon. So there's a lot of babies about to be born. So imagine. There's no excuses. So despite these contributions, our collective voice is still underutilized in many spaces, shaping broader policy conversations between the United States and Africa. But I know that us as sitting as official, I know that we can serve as strategic bridges between local American communities and opportunities on the African continent. Imagine just so many partnerships in technology, healthcare, education, entrepreneurship. All of those can be strengthened through the leadership of someone like myself and many, and of those who understand both the cultures and both the systems. Putting us in those type of seats, we are the direct voice. If I was not there to talk to the governor, even around, some of you guys heard about it, the legislation that I have about international doctors, asking the governor to change that legislation where they don't have to come in and do a whole nother 3, 4, 5 years, then go do another master, then go do back residency. If they're already a doctor overseas and they have already obtained all of their credentials and they've already practiced, all they have to do is come here, learn the system, get 1 year in at least residency with supervision, and then from there get the recommendation and the approval from the board. That just helps eliminate so many barriers. And with healthcare being a shortage right now, I am on his neck about getting that done. I'm on his neck about getting it done. I told him, you do that, Pennsylvania, I can promise you, you would get a lot of other swing states on board. That's all we need is the swing states on board. Everybody else will follow. So that's something like that that we need, that open pathway and doors, and as an economic boost to our community, our societies. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the realm of security. I know with our collaboration, it helps address some of the most pressing challenges facing the region. The United States and Nigeria, I can say for me, I've been working closely to combat terrorism. I can't speak to everything to a degree because I'm not in Congress, but unfortunately, I've had to step up like I'm in Congress, even down to immigration. I've had to step up because right now we need that representation. There was once upon a time, a lot of police departments did not work with me because I was at that time being an activist. I did not know the Lord was going to put me there. Now we're all at the table. And we laugh, we smile, we talk about things. I done came up with so many different policies and situations on how to tackle, whether it's ICE, how to tackle responding to calls, whether it's around accreditation, programs, all type of things I never thought we were going to ever get to a place. And now here we are. Sometimes they just call me. Hey, we have this person and we think they might be, not of status. I said, well, if you think, then that means you don't know. So if you don't know, then hang up the phone. Hang up the phone. Then, well, we don't want to get in trouble. You can't get in trouble if they can already see everything in the system. If they reach out, you hold them 48 hours. If you cannot and they don't come, you let them go. That's your law. That's our law here in the state. So send them out the door. Okay, no problem. Instead of holding someone. These are the type of things that comes across our desk. That's not my call, but I'm not going to say unfortunately, but fortunately, the beautiful part is there's been respect that's been able to be built. Even though they once said nobody's going to ever elect someone with the last name Kazim, here they all calling me just all Kazim. They don't even call me Carol, just Kazim. Just Kazim. But I'm okay with that. Because I want them to remember that once upon a time they said nobody would ever be elected, and now here you are having to call me about a million things. But it's those type of representation that is important and is needed here in our country. And I know that with the millions of Nigerians that contribute to America alone, we're not even going to get over there in Europe. But in America alone, through medicine, education, business, public service, and the arts, what are we doing? What are we doing? So what I'm doing right now to help build partnerships, there's few people that's been recently elected in my state on local levels They're not Nigerians, but one is Ghanaian, one is Liberian. And I said, we're all brothers and sisters. I'm still the only female, but now I got all my brothers. I've been pulling their hands, and they're all young. One is 28, one is 25. And they all now been elected, and they all came against it. Carol, you can't do it. Go against status quo. Let them go. I said, they're going to sit in those seats. This one from Ghana is going to sit here. This one from Liberia is going to sit here. Now one of them is the sheriff for the whole county. 28 years old. So now when we come across some of the issues we're talking about nationally, put that on his desk. I want you to read this. Get back to me and see what you think. It's not to say that we come in and we take power. No, we still follow the law and the policies. But if we want to see things change, we come in as voices knowing the challenges. We know firsthand. The difference is I was born here in the U.S. The two of them that I helped put in their seats were born actually in Liberia and Ghana. So like I told them to, there's no excuse. You've been there during your civil wars. So what are we going to do? So I'm saying it to say for the new leadership that wants to come in, and if you think, oh, I don't want to be, I didn't want to. But I see it as a calling, at least for my generation. I don't know how many more years I got left in me. I told the Lord I'm tired. But I know for now, he's still going to keep pushing me through with his strength. So I'm calling on you all who's thinking about running. No, it's not easy. You can't say how things are going to go. But the fact that you put yourself out there just to try, and I pray you win, it will change the dynamic of the U.S. and the representation and the leadership that we come in with. The wisdom that we already have and established, the intelligence, the uniqueness that comes with us. That alone coming inside of a door, a government door, them opening a door. And you coming in and say, nope, this is not going without this. We have a black caucus, but now in the state we have a Latino caucus. Everything that has to do with immigration, the Latino caucus meet, and I'm a part of the Latino. They say, you're not Latino. I said, but I'm an immigrant, so I'm going to see what's going on. And we come together. That's how it goes. So some things never fly on the floor without them calling Kazim. And they know I'm the type, I will hold that board up. So I'm unapologetic about it because I was sent here by my people, but I represent all people. But if I want to see Nigeria be built, if I want to see them represented right, I have to come in correct. I have to come in correct. So I just want you guys to understand, please step up in your position. Do what you need to do. Even if you're just a medical practitioner, even if you're a lawyer, even if you're just a council person, if you're a school board, even if you're a teacher. I don't care if you work down the street at the store. All of that plays a factor. So I pray that you all would think about everything that I said and understand the importance of leadership and our selective roles and how we could take that back home. Now, as far as homegoing security, then that's a conversation we all need to meet and talk about because that comes down to unity and greed. Once we get that out the way and we start moving in a God-fearing manner, then we will see a lot of things different. We see a lot of things different. Well, that's all I have to say for today. I thank you, Benga, the founder of the Nigerian Center, for inviting me here. I'm always pleased to come to D.C., and I pray the Lord just keep me right. What I want to do is go into law, but he keep pushing me back. So we'll see, and we'll see. I don't know where Congress is going, but I'm willing to support who wants to run. Thank you.
I think that deserves a standing ovation.
What's up, sister?
So we may all have our seats. So this concludes the Why Nigeria Matters, Security, Economy, and Diaspora Priorities for U.S. Policy. Our speakers will be around for any questions that you may have.